Hey everyone, it's Nico Tanner again. Today I'm back with a little different video. Instead of showing you a tutorial on how to do something from the beginning, I will give you a little making of video of a track I made. It's a remix of a friend of mine who made a cloud rap song, and I made a pop style drum and bass track, which you can listen to right now. It's as usual a very detailed stream or thought video. I usually don't write scripts, and my English isn't the best, so you have some breaks where I'm looking for words, but I still think you can learn quite a bit, so I hope you like the video. The track will release in 10 days on the 28th of January. Chances are it's probably out when you watch this video. I will link it in the description, and hope you have fun. Let's start by actually listening to the original for a short while. So you can hear it's a very melancholic and minimalistic rap song. And what I did was change the vibe completely and did a very poppy and happy song, but I like it. And this one is also mastered by someone else. I have a little problem because I made the track on an old computer, so I wasn't able to load it completely. So the project will sound a little different than the finished track. That's why I put the finished one in here, but it's still enough to show you what I did. So here we have a little drop, and also I got a little jungle breakbeat here to switch it up. Alright, I will probably link the finished song after that if you want to listen to it as a whole. So now let's activate everything else in this. As you can see, it's also not very clean, the project. I was working without any order. But I just want to show you some basics I did. So maybe we start with the drums first. So why is this linked? Alright. So you can hear the very basic drum rhythm. I did very snappy kick and drums, but again they sound a little different in the final track because I wasn't able to load every plugin correctly. This one didn't load as well. So what I did here was actually use two hub channels for the kick and the snare, where I loaded a standard clip, and you can see the red part is what I cut off the track, or the sample rather. And what this does is it makes it a little less loud in the mix. So I got a wave observer here, because whenever you have a snap like this, wait, let me freeze it, you hit the limiter, and if you cut this off more, you will hit the limiter less, and can make the final track louder. It's a little hard to explain, but if I, for example, if I clip it more, you see the general peaks are way smaller. So I could, in theory, boost the complete track more without it hitting the limiter, so I can make the final track way louder. Of course, this changes the sound of the sample quite a bit, so you have to balance it so it sounds great. I actually have a friend who's shown me this stuff a lot, and yeah, he is a professional in this. If you want to learn something from him, he's in my Discord server. His name is Inisha. He does very snappy drum and bass tracks. Yeah. Anyway, I did some variation in my drum patterns just so they don't get boring over the time. Then I have the vocal samples. This one is just a stem I received from the artist. They already had the chorus and reverb and everything on it. And this one is also a sample from the original track, which I just edited a bit with some effects. And as you can hear, I used a cut-off rise just to get some type of build-up feeling. And then I have some effect things in here. Those are not that important. They just make the different ends of bars a little more interesting, just so you have a little variation all the time. But most things that are happening in here are actually pretty much looping melodies in different instruments, and the variety comes from the vocals and just some small things. So in my opinion, it's way easier to get a varied arrangement when doing remix instead, or if you have vocals at least, because I'm not that good in writing melodies. I do very pattern based production, and it works if you have vocals, because the vocals keep changing, obviously. So those are just more background stuff. So let's listen to some of my bass things. As you can hear, it's very hard to differentiate what is actually bass sound and what not. I layered quite a bit on top of each other. So here I added a sub bass, and that's really important for stuff like that, to understand that you achieve those interesting bass sounds with layering. If I just used one single sound, then it would sound very muddy or something would be missing. So I put a lot of work in layering different bass sounds, and I can show you what I did in here. It's a serum. It's a pretty basic sine wave with a little changed sine wave, and you can hear the pattern I did. I think this is actually a variation as well for the chorus, which makes it also a little more interesting than the normal patterns. The melody is the same, but it just gives it way more energy by having these quick notes in there. Yeah, I think it's too much to go through all the single sound design choices, but you can see I did a lot of envelope control on different parameters. And yeah, I got these as a, I think it's a counter melody. No, it's pretty much the same actually. And then I did some very quiet pads. This is a lot of tweaking over the time, just mixing. I can't really show you a lot. It's you have to listen to it. Of course, you have to make sure that you try to keep frequencies clean. For example, no bass in the pads, because you need them for the bass, obviously. Or the bass top actually has no sub frequencies either. I keep these for my sub bass. As you can see, it's pretty boosted in here. And I did quite a few weird things, like limiting my sub bass channels, just so I wanted to boost them a bit. It's really not the most logical way I produce this, but in the end the sound is what's important. As you can see, I have a sidechain channel where I put my bass through. I routed them into a hub channel and into a sidechain. I actually got a track spacer, which is a dynamic equalizer, basically, and did one for snare and kick, so I can duck every signal I route into my sidechain channel separately, and it will look something like this. I'm actually missing quite a bit of low end on my kick drum. This is probably a result of me not being able to correctly load my project. Yeah. So on top of that, I have a little ARP melody. I think it's a classic Flex. Flex is really has really great presets already. I usually don't change anything in here, just some mixing after it, of course. And as you can see, it also goes in my sidechain, because the drums, I don't want to make them too loud, but they have to be very clear to keep. It's actually kind of depending on what kind of style you want your track to be, because actually I mixed the track way softer, but the mastering engineer I sent it to is more focused on club music, so the way he masters is more club focused, so he boosted the bass quite a bit more and things like that. So you can actually, just by changing the way you mix, change even the genre a bit, because with a very heavy kick and snare you have a way more danceable track. I can show you my unmastered version. Let me go to the folder, and you will hear that it's quite a bit softer. Let's hope it doesn't crash. There we go. Well, the drums are still loud, but the bass is way softer. Oh, you shouldn't do that. So it's actually, when you work that long on a track, you're actually kind of used to how it sounds, and if you give it to someone else to mix or master it, even it might be objectively better sounding, but for you it will sound weird because you are so used to how you mixed it. So yeah, in comparison, I almost dislike the way it's mastered, but if I just listen to it on its own, it's definitely better than what I did. So that's a thing to keep in mind when you create your tracks. But of course, every mastering engineer is different, so you have to find someone that's fitting to your style as well. Yeah. So you can hear those are the basic melody components. Then those are just some rides. I think I used some. I have some jazz sounds, drum sounds. I use them to because I don't use them very often. I wanted to get a little more natural feeling. Here you can hear like a brush snare. That's unusual, but makes it sound quite a bit more dynamic. But of course, I always add breaks because there are people that are way better in creating breakbeats. So when I add them, they always make the track sound more like drum bass than when I do it on my own. And yeah, this is... should activate my mastering. You can also hear how much I do on the mastering channel. I actually do a lot of final frequency boosting because I used to mix quite without a lot of high frequencies because my speakers are so they're not really boosting my high frequencies, but they lack bass, so I tend to mix them a bit too bassy. That's why I always put some boost in the end on the whole track. And here I have a little drop without vocals. And this is where I created a little more focus on the sound design. I have a little wobbly bass, also a brutal bass top. This is actually, I was actually going kind of in a jump up down bass direction with this. So I think if I activate all the automation clips, it will make it a little more interesting. But it was really hard to get this part to sound clean. I don't think it's necessarily that clean, but I really had to decide what elements are important, and I dialed back the others very much. You can hear how quiet the pads are, for example, because it got cluttered really badly. Yeah, I tend to clutter my mixes a bit too much, but that's just what I do. I like layering stuff. Here I got a little snare drum roll just to keep it interesting, where I drop the vocals again. And I realized after a while that I can't just keep on doing this for the whole track because that is very boring. And since I am bad at creating very unique melodies, I just decided to do something completely different. Here you can see that I resampled parts of the bass line so I can do some cut off stuff easier. And this is just very basic 808 sample slapped on top and some aim breaks. If you follow my channel, you know I use them nearly in every track. And this is also quite boring actually, but your focus is still on the lyrics in the track, so you don't really realize it. And also in the end I just cut the samples up a bit to create a little more variation. And here I loop the vocals. And here you can hear the pre-drop snare roll. This is just to make your drops more interesting. Also, you can see here I also do some kind of pre-drop kick. Yeah, here I tried to go wild with the drum rhythm, but I wasn't really that consequent until the end. But I think it's okay. And I don't know what I did in here. Alright, here the vocals are actually more exciting than in the beginning. So I didn't even change anything, but the chorus and the vocals really fitted well to the bass line. I like this part especially. I like how this sounds with the melody.
Ich hab alles, was ich brauch. Geh mir einfach aus der Sonne. Ying Young, Diogenes, der Mann in der Tonne.
Yeah, just as a comparison, the original sounds like this in the end. This is the part that I like so much in here. Yeah, so that was the full track as an overview, and I don't know what else can I show you. I can show you some interesting effect things I did. For example, this right here is, I think, effect on the vocals. You can hear I activated the delay on the last syllable, and I created a panning LFO, and I increased the, I think it's the amount with another automation clip, so the panning gets stronger if you listen closely. So basically what I did was just do a normal basic arrangement, and every few bars I try to come up with a new effect just to make it a little more interesting. I don't know what I did here. I think this is just a fix for the vocals, since there was a little unwanted sound in there. Yeah, here, just to make the start a little more interesting, I dropped the drums in the second half of the bar. Wait, I forgot to turn on the mastering chain again. What else do I have? Yeah, definitely to create more interest, I also drop out the drums at the end of a bar before something new comes. And here I combined it also with the other technique. So there's like 2 half bars missing of drums. Yeah, if this was like a rock song, this would probably be the part where we have a small guitar solo or something. And right here, because I start with the vocals again, as you can see here, I already go down with a lot of these bass sounds already, just to clean up the mix. And I think no. Oh, one thing I did, which is actually quite interesting. I've shown that in another tutorial as well. You can hear this is my arpeggiator pattern, and I resampled it in here. And let's see if I still have the pattern for this. I'm not... Doesn't seem like it. But I think what I did was just playing the pattern and adding playing random notes on top. But I'm actually not quite sure anymore. Oh, I think this was actually a growth beat, because you can do things like do some of these things, and if you do that on a I think some of these change the pitch. You can actually automate these as well. You can go through the patterns via an automation clip and create very interesting variations. And of course you can record them to have them stored. I am not quite sure how I did this effect right here and why I resampled it, but it's just the ARP, but a little more interesting. Hello, it's me from the future. I just remembered how I did the sound. So what I did was actually go into the pattern and use the arpeggiate tool. And what I did was play and change the range dynamically. And since you can't really automate this, I instead put an Edison on the channel, which is actually still here, and recorded the movement I just shown you, because there's no way to store it in the project, so I bounced it as audio. Yeah, I haven't looked at this one yet. So we have some classic piano chords, again Flex. Has some great pianos. I think those are downloaded. You can go here to free and download new packs. And I did the classic 7th chords, so always like this. Don't do a full octave, just one before that, so you have some very jazzy sounding chords. And also chill guitar, apparently. Sounds like I have a little sidechain on here, as you can see with growth speed as well. Of course, if you don't have growth speed, you can do this with a simple automation clip. And also, apparently, one of my bassline sounds on there as well. And I didn't waste any time on creating a sub bass for this one, so I just dropped a sample. And when I needed to tune them, I clicked on here, made them unique, and then I can pitch them to the note I want. Just a little tip if you didn't know. And what did I do here? I think this is just this is just a cutoff for the ARP. This one was quite a lot of work right here, I don't know exactly why.
Früher wollten alle Kinder Feuerwehrmänner sein. Ich wollte Feuer legen, heute will ich Penner sein. Aus der Sonne wollten alle Cowboy und Indianer sein. Ich wollte einfach nur...
Yeah, that's about it, I think. Anything else I can show you? Of course, you can ask more questions in the comment, and I might do another video on this track. Yeah, of course, a lot of mixing and stuff went into here, which is just too much for this video, and also just a lot of experience. But yeah, as I said, it's also quite a bit of your own. It's a little subjective as well, how you want it to sound. And in the end, right now I put a limiter on here. If you turn this knob, you get a little saturation, which is supposed to make the sound a little more warm and analog sounding. Which is basically something like a small distortion, but if you turn it down more, the distortion is actually getting stronger. And then I can show you some analyzing tools I used. Julian loudness meter is pretty great and free to check how loud your track is, which is important for different streaming platforms and stuff. I aim to not surpass -1 dB on the True Peak Max, and the True Peak you see in here is different than the peak, for example, in the limiter. It's quite complicated to explain, but there are a lot of good videos on it. Yeah, and a lot of the things I know I learned from YouTube as well. I can recommend In the Mix, the channel, very good. Yeah, Span is a classic. You definitely should get and use Span, just so you can check if your mix is balanced, which is especially important if you don't have good speakers, because that makes really a lot of mixes sound bad, because they sound good on your speakers, but your speakers aren't good. So but it's also the other way around. If you have very good speakers and your track sounds good on your speakers, it might be that they sound bad on bad speakers. For example, if you do very deep bass and someone listens to your track on phone and you didn't compensate for that, for example, by putting some higher frequencies on your bass line, which is what I do, for example, with my bass top. If you just have a sub bass, then nobody can hear your bass line when they have small speakers. So definitely spent a lot of time to just check my track on different speakers as well, put it on my phone, and yeah, different things. But again, it also changed quite a bit after the mastering as well. So I mixed my track way more for pop than for club style, but now it's a hybrid, I'd say. Yeah, so I guess I talked enough, and I will probably soon release a video or create first to show you how to do basics of this from the beginning, probably using stock samples and plugins again. And yeah, so if you like this, then you can get started on your own. This was more like a deep dive right now, because some people definitely wanted to know how I do my more complicated tracks. And yeah, I hope you will listen to my track when it's released. Chances are that it's already released when you're watching this. And yes, join my Discord server. Whenever I create a tutorial, I put the presets and everything in there. We have free samples. For example, just now I put a sample pack in there with a lot of breakbeats, which are essential for everything, in my opinion, but especially for drum and bass. So yeah, can recommend this. So I don't know what else to say, so thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.